Welcome, everybody, to the R&amp, a fan-based podcast focusing on Montana State athletics. We're two dudes named Ryan from the state of Washington talking about our dear Montana State. We hope you enjoy. All right, welcome back, Bobcat fans, and thanks for joining us on another episode of the R&amp. I'm here with Tom Stuber again, one more week with Tom. Thorny should be back this week sometime, I guess, but Tom's taking duties. He went all the way out to Brookings, South Dakota. We're going to hear all about it tonight with Tom. Thanks for joining us, buddy. How are you doing?
Hey, really good. Thanks for having me again. Appreciate it.
Right on. Well, welcome, fan, to the R&R. This is a fan-based podcast, so we can, I guess, air our grievances a little bit more easily because we're not really connected to Montana State, so we can put it online, and without even some, not too much bad feedback from listeners. But we're all a little bit hurt tonight because of the South Dakota State game. It depends on where you're at on the acceptance and grieving spectrum, but we'll get into it. But tonight's format, we'll go into the news. Any news that came out, we'll talk about the polls, the FCS polls at Montana State. Still number 3. I'm going to talk about Vegan's presser. I don't know if you caught that, Tom, but we'll pass that back and forth. Tom's really good with the stats, and so we'll lean into him and talk about the stats for the SDSU game. And then we'll probably spend most of the time talking about just the thoughts on the South Dakota State game, what it means for Montana State going forward, what does it mean right now, and how does Montana State get right, essentially, in order to finish what they want to do this, accomplish what they want to accomplish this year. We do have a short preview of Stetson. I apologize on the Golden Coolies. I was late to the call on that. I put it up about an hour ago. We will double check Bobcat Nation, but as of right now, I don't have any any Golden Coolie questions. And then I do have a couple buyer sells for Tom. I'll try to sprinkle those in when it's appropriate. Other than that, it's probably just going to be kind of a cathartic session of just talking about South Dakota State. I know for a lot of fans, including myself, I just need this. I just need to talk it out with some Bobcat people. And I feel like this is going to help me move on because we ultimately need to move on to the next game.
Mm-hmm.
And, one game is not a season, no doubt. And it's early in the season. It just hurts because it feels like a lost moment.
Yeah, everybody's going to forget about it in about 4 or 5 weeks.
Yep.
And by the end of the year, it'll just be, wow, that was a crazy game. And, everybody will be focused on where MSU is sitting as a playoff seed and da-da-da-da-da. But, yeah, everybody's still probably smarting. But I think most people are probably getting over it by now, But, but what a game. I mean, and it's, that's what's cool about sports. You have a game like that and it sticks with you and you remember practically every play from the game and especially all the close calls and missed calls and, missed opportunities and things like that. And, so that's why we are drawn to sports. It's games like that.
Well, it won't be forgotten anytime soon. This feels a lot to me like, I was talking last night, the 2017 Gold Rush game when South Dakota State was in Bozeman last. A lot of similarities there. Hey, before we get into any more talk about it, let's get into what's in our Golden Coolie segment.
What's in your Golden Coolie?
What's in your Golden Coolie is brought to you by Wilbur Ellis. Your Golden Coolie is brought to you by Wilbur Ellis. There it is. Your first stop for fertilizer and farming needs in the Golden Triangle. See Shay Richter. We appreciate Shay for sponsoring our Golden Coolie segment this year. Did you bring anything to the Golden Coolie segment, Tom?
Of course. Yeah, I brought the same thing I had last week, Coors. So there you go.
My backup is a Coors. I don't know if you can see that. There
it is.
Yeah. But I thought I'd change it up just because I had a cold Rainier in the refrigerator.
Yeah,
so,
Rain Doggy. There you go.
That tends to be my go-to here in Spokane. It's the cheapest. It's really good too. I like
it. They don't
it.
brew it out there anymore. They brew it in where? Milwaukee or somewhere.
Yeah, it's probably down in the Midwest.
Yeah, but yeah, that was the classic beer when I was becoming drinking aged. Yeah, drinking age was 19 when I was back then, and yeah, everybody that was like Rainier was the number one cool beer.
Oh, really?
Oh yeah. All the commercials.
Know.
Yeah, they had the coolest commercials on TV and everything. So yeah.
Yep, I've seen those. I've seen some of them, and a local bar has quite the homage to Rainier and all those old ads. Pretty cool ad, flavor back in the day.
Yeah, all Mickey Rooney, big star.
Yeah, right on. Okay, well, getting past that, let's go into the news. I don't think there was any national news or any important news that came out today for the Montana State Bobcats. We'll get into the injuries here in a moment when we talk about the vegan presser. Tom, am I missing anything on like national news? We didn't get any players of the week. Anything like that?
No, I didn't see anything. I didn't see anything like that. I mean, there's big national news on the other MSU out in Michigan, but we won't want to talk about that here.
Okay. Let's see the FCS coaches poll. I don't want the coaches poll. Let's see. I want the stats. Top 25 there. All right. South Dakota State remained number 1. North Dakota State remained number 2. And Montana State remained number 3. I didn't think Montana State was going to fall. I'm happy they didn't. This is one of those rare occasions where the loss actually doesn't hurt Montana State in the eyes of the playoff committee down the road. That probably will be a benefit for them. We'll get there when we get there. Let's see. Idaho, who just waxed Nevada, they move up from number 7 up to number 5. I think that's apropos. Yeah. Sac State is hanging out at number 8. They were number 9. Weber State comes in at number 12. Number 9. They moved up from number 12. I think Weber had a really strong showing. I think if I was doing a power ranking between Weber State, Sac State, I would flip-flop those two.
Mm-hmm.
Montana comes in at number 12, so they're up a spot. And UC Davis drops a spot down to 16.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they took a big beating from Oregon State.
Yeah, they sure did.
They were way, way behind at halftime. I can't remember what it was, but yeah. But Idaho had a nice win, and Nevada has lost I don't know how many games in a row. They're not very good, but they put a big beating on them instead of just nipping them, so they were obviously impressive. So that's a good win for them, and they deserve to move up.
I teach with one of their defensive linemen's dad, and he was talking to me that Idaho has trouble running the ball. So I'm wondering about Idaho right now. Are they a front runner, or can they sustain this? Well, we all know that you need to run the ball. I haven't, dove into their stats or anything, so yeah. I'm not going to go too deep on that, but interesting team.
Yeah, no, they are. Yeah, I wouldn't have predicted such a big win over Nevada, but it's just hard to say still.
All right, let's talk about the vegan presser. Vegan looks like a sad puppy to me right now, just like a tired, sad human being. And then I caught afterwards Omar Abidian and Rylan Ort, and they just look frankly pissed off. And I think they're still feeling it. And you were there after the game talking to them. You caught Chambers, you caught Askelson, you caught Vegan. What was the feeling like just there before we get into today's?
Well, Chambers, and it was Danny Yu, not
that's right.
Askelson. But anyway, they were very disappointed, and Chambers was especially despondent about it. And he's kind of a more emotional guy, but even as bummed out as he was, he during the interview he had that comment about we're gonna we'll go home tonight and put our heads on our pillows, and we know that we played really well, and so he was already kind of showing signs of coming out of it, And Danny, they were, definitely upset and whatnot. But, and I asked Danny specifically about the defense and how well they played. And he acknowledged that. And, he knows that they're better than they are. I think they proved that definitely. That was just I had a hard time, I was like, I didn't really, I was, even though they lost, I was like really impressed. I just thought they played really, really well in terms of physicality and the things that everybody was talking about last year after they lost to them, was their physicality mainly. And they just totally responded that way. I thought they were the more physical team. Um, they just answered all the questions, especially defensively. And defensively, I mean, I was saying last week, and I've been saying all summer that, they just, overall last year, they were getting better towards the end, but I didn't think that they just weren't, that caliber of a defense. And now they are, now they look like that. I mean, you know, the first half was just awesome for the defense. The second half started bad, but South Dakota State is good, and they made adjustments. They came out in the first two drives in the second half really really cleaned up. But MSU on the next two drives after that held them to 3-and-out and allowed no yards on both of those possessions. And then on the very last possession, and this was really a letdown because they had the two possessions before were so good. You were like, okay, they got everything back now. They're back. They're not, they're not on their heels anymore. They're coming at them. And then, they hit that long pass play. And it was just like, how often do you get that? It was just a tough play. And then the very next play they score, and then you see the replay, and it looks like possibly a block in the back there. And, that makes it 1st and 20. And who knows if they even get a first down. And they're only down 3. They had to try a really long field goal or try to get a first down. So, one little play like that gets missed. If it was in fact, maybe I don't know the rule right, but it looked like a block in the back to me. But whatever, yeah, they were bummed out, and Vegan was bummed out, but uh, these guys have been playing football for a long time. They've had tough losses, and I believe they know how to deal with them, and they're not gonna, a day or two, and it'll be a distant memory, I think.
I don't know about that, Tom. This kind of feels like yeah. I agreed with everything you said up until that very end, where they can kind of just forget about it. To me, this game felt like a defining moment for Montana State. In a way, it was. I think this game buoys hope and concern at the same time. Hope and questions is probably a better way of putting that. I mean, you said so much in there. There's the defense, right? Hold on, we're going to go free form on this, and I want to take a little bit to the plan. I want to go back to the presser real quick. I want to say kudos to whoever was asking questions. I know Victor Flores. I'm not familiar with the other guy's voice who is asking questions over there, but they asked some tough questions to Coach Vegan. They were asking him about the play calling in the red zone and in general, like what their philosophy was right there. And one of the things Coach Vegan came out and said today that kind of surprised me, given our personnel. He said our game plan was a QB run heavy game plan. And to me, I don't understand that because,
how come?
well, it's an obvious strength, right? I mean, you want to play to your strengths, but you don't want to lose your strengths either. And we know
they
that
ran well, right?
They did.
They ran well.
But we came out one less quarterback, our starting quarterback, Tommy Malott.
Well, yeah, he could have get hurt on any play. And I think he got hurt on a pass play anyhow. So,
yeah, all summer long we heard the improved pass game. We didn't see much of that until we needed it, and it was effective. Someone can argue, oh, well, Ty McCall is not there. Lanata Jr. Alexander is not there. Taco Dallar's not there. We still got guys.
They're in a prevent.
Yeah.
They're in a prevent defense on the last drive.
I'm just saying, Coach Vegan took a lot of those hard questions, and he basically said we had a QB run heavy game plan, but in hindsight, we probably should have been a little bit more balanced.
Mm.
And then they asked him a little bit about the drives inside the 5, and hindsight, he's like, yeah, we probably should have
Right.
maybe optioned something out there, and
Uh-huh.
but
Well,
we
that's
thought
what's
we
good
could get
about that
it.
game. I mean, if they
Yeah.
go out there and if they go out there and everything works, and they don't have a game where it doesn't work, and then they go all the way to the semifinals or the championship, and all of a sudden nothing's working, and now they don't know what to do, just like what happened here. They went in with I don't have a problem with the game plan that they had. Sure, in hindsight, maybe have done something different would have won the game. Who knows? But the game plan they had was quarterback run heavy. Everybody's complaining about, running that same play over and over and over. Well, the first time down the field or second time down the field when they scored a touchdown, they ran that play 5 straight times. Tommy ran it the first time, Chambers the next 4, and Chambers punched it in from the 2, no problem. So, I mean, you have a game plan, and then that happens on your second drive, you're like, hey, our game plan's sound, So they didn't really have much reason to adjust away from it during the course of the game. And the other thing is they only had like 4 plays, actually only 3, where they were down inside the 2-yard line. So there wasn't that many plays. I think a lot of people, and myself included, just had the previous game, the Utah Tech game, when they ran it 4 times down inside the 2 and didn't get in. Actually, they got in on the 4th down. And then this game, the one other time that they ran it, they got called for a false start, and Chambers did score on that play. So I don't know. I mean, yeah, if you want to protect the quarterback, obviously you don't want to run him, but I don't know. I mean,
So, question for you, Tom: do you think we can win a national championship with this current offense?
Oh yeah, for sure. I think they can win a national championship because, like I said, going way back, there's 2 things they needed to get better at. One or the other would make them a contender. If they could become a more effective passing team, or if they could get better on defense. But I always said that I would prefer. I thought it was harder for them to get better at, get all the way up there on defense than it is for them to. I thought it would be simpler for them to become a little bit better passing team. But as it turns out, the defense is up there, and I'm like, that's the thing. If they can play defense, because defense blends right in with your run game. I mean, that's a perfect match. And so, yeah, if they're going to play defense like they did all year, if that's really what they are, if that wasn't some kind of fluke or something, then yeah, they're going to really play well. I was looking at them as a 9-2, and I was leaning more towards 8-3 than I was 10-1 this year. But after this game, I'm leaning more 10-1 than I am 8-3. I'm still sitting 9-2 most likely, but 10-1. But yeah, defense is just that's the thing. And I mean, I would take that over a pass game anytime.
So this game buoyed hope in you.
Big time.
Yeah. Okay.
Big time. Yeah.
Well, I think both can be true. I think, and I want to talk about the defense. I want to isolate that as a main topic for a moment. But I do think Montana State does have a better passing game. I just don't think we call the plays to do it. Either that or when I was watching it, and I might be wrong, that Tommy was just reverted back to Tommy mode. And when I say that, I think a lot of our listeners know what I mean. It's just like 1, 2, check, I'm going to run. I'm instinctual.
Yeah.
Where I think Coach wanted him to, see some things develop.
Sure. And maybe they went back and watched the film, and I don't really know what to look for. But the thing is, everybody has to keep this in mind. South Dakota State's really good. South Dakota State has a really, really good defense, especially in the secondary. Their new coach is their old defensive coach, right? Wasn't he the defensive coordinator?
Johnny Rogers.
So I'm like, you got to expect that they're going to be good on defense. They know what MSU wants to do. And they weren't sleeping. They heard people talking about MSU wants to be a better passing team. So, but they keyed on Tommy, and they keyed on Chambers, and they keyed on their reads. They were watching Tommy and watching Sean, And when they were, RPO, they knew it was RPO, and they knew they might pass, but you might, people need to also rewatch the game and watch how covered the receivers are. I'm sure they did miss a couple open receivers, but and I noticed this last year too a lot is, our receivers would, they would be set up to pass and be looking to pass, and just hardly ever anybody getting open. The guy that I used to remember last year getting open on that was Cleveland Thomas.
Yeah.
But, and yeah, we'll talk about the catch he made too in a little bit. But yeah, yes, South Dakota State everybody's got to keep in mind they're really good. They're a very good defensive team. And MSU played better offensively. I mean, goodness grief, what did they have last year? What was it? They averaged 1.5 yards a carry last year. Malott carried the ball 17 times for 3 yards last year. I know there's some sacks in there, but I mean, night and day difference. 4.4 yards per carry this game. The pass game wasn't quite as good, but the pass game wasn't anything special in that playoff loss. But
see, I thought our pass game actually looked pretty good when Malott was running the QB. He was 6 for 6, and we were moving. We were moving it really well. Hey, quick question then. I just thought about this. If you were grading out Housewright, what grade would you give him on his play calling?
For that game?
Yeah.
Probably a C.
Yeah, same.
I mean,
it wasn't great. It was really average, and I think I needed
everybody
him
knew
to
what
be
they were running. Everybody knew what play they were going to run when they got lined up at the quarterback by himself in the backfield. Everybody on the planet knew what play they were running, and so that was bad that they just didn't have anything. I mean, just a couple times, even if it's just go out and drop straight back, sit in the pocket, and throw the ball 20 yards out of bounds, way down the field, and have your receivers run way down the field or something. Just anything, and they had a few 2nd and 1s, where they could have done something like that. Hey, it's 2nd and 1. Why not burn a play here? Let's just go for it and look and see if this guy gets wide open 20 yards downfield. We'll chuck it to him. If we don't get it, we'll go for it on 3rd down. But oh well, hindsight's 2020.
So Tommy hit a play fake into a naked bootleg, and they all bit. Mm-hmm. But South Dakota State had our receivers covered, but that had huge potential, and I didn't see it the rest of the game. I was like, holy cow. Yeah. He faked the dive and then bootlegged out. It was beautiful. I want to see more of that. Okay.
Yeah. Well, and to another thing, one more thing, they were ahead, and they were never way behind really in the whole game, and that, especially in a game like that, I think coaches, tend to, stay pretty conservative too. You start falling behind, then you start opening it up a little bit more. Or if you get a good lead, you can relax a little bit and try some different things. But it was a tight game the whole game.
I thought Montana State brought the muscle. We out-physicaled them in a lot of ways. All the off-season work was proven out there. Kudos to Montana State. I thought our offensive line dictated terms when we needed dictated terms. I was really impressed. The way we were able to run the ball, 211 yards, was as advertised, and we didn't break one. And that was I always was surprised on that. It would seem like we would get a couple 8-yard runs here and there, and we were just one tackle away. Credit to South Dakota State. I didn't like them because they were just like taunting a little bit, but their strong safety and their free safety were excellent tacklers. Tacklers. They were everywhere on the field.
Yep.
I don't know, man. Yeah, just so much stuff to go into. Hey, let's talk about the stats, though.
Okay.
Let's get into the stats.
Yeah. Well, the big one for me was like, the South Dakota State, it was like a Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde for them, and I guess us too, or for MSU's defense too, because they had three touchdown drives. They had 9 possessions, 3 touchdowns. The 3 touchdowns, 2 of them came right out of the half. And, they made some good adjustments probably there. Went in and, made some plays. But you could see during those 2 drives that MSU was slowly getting it figured out. They were slowing them down. I mean, they started out the first play of the second half, got 26 yards. I think the next play was, double figure yards, and the next play was close to that. I mean, they just chunk, got right down the field, and then it, didn't. I think it was I can't remember how many play drive. What, 7? Yeah, 7 play drive. And then the next drive started on their own 5, and they drove it all the way down and scored again and missed the extra point. But then, and I was kind of like, oh, great. They played so good in the first half. These guys made some adjustments, and now they're just going to motor down the field every time they get the ball. And MSU, then in the meantime, Tommy goes out, and then MSU is just sputtering on offense, and the defense comes in. And this to me is just as important, if not more so, than the physical nature. Maybe, well, I shouldn't say it's more so, but just as important is the ability to be resilient and the ability to, pick up the whole team with your level of play. And so they go out there and they're like, I don't know what they were thinking, but if I was able to think for them, I would be like, man, the offense isn't doing it. We got to do something. We got to get it going, and we got to stay focused. And I asked Danny Yu about that, and he just said, yeah, we got on the sidelines, and, everybody just told each other, is that basic theory is stay focused on what you need to do. Don't try to, make plays for somebody else. Don't go hunting to make a play. Just stay in your gap and, keep doing what we're supposed to do and stick with the plan. And they stuck with the plan, and it worked. And they stopped them on the first time. I think it was, they ran 3 plays and lost a yard. And I don't know. I think that was the one where they blocked the punt anyway, and they get the ball, kick a field goal. And then the next time it's another 3 and out. And they get the ball, and they punted on that one, and MSU drove whatever it was to the next field goal. It was a pretty good drive, 11 plays, 56 yards down there, and kicked that field goal. So, and again there, the defense comes through. Now it's the offense. It's like, hey, they're doing their thing. Now we got to do our thing. So it's like, they're playing a team game. They're playing for each other. They're staying with their plan, and nobody's trying to be a hero. And and that was the result. So they took a game that looked like it was getting away from them, and they hunkered down and did it. And that's just great resilience. And they responded, and they got that done. They got the lead, and then boom, boom. Those 2 plays. It was just unbelievable to me. I was just shocked. And I was like, okay, they pulled off that bomb. All right, they got that. That was a perfect pass. He wasn't, Dowler didn't get beat too bad on the play. He was able to make the tackle right on the catch, but, he was there, but it was just a perfect pass. And
can I ask you something about that real quick? Do you think we should have been in a prevent defense instead of man coverage there?
Well, they only needed a field goal.
So that's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking we should have been like in quarters or prevent defense in order to kind of limit the big play, make them chew up the clock to get down to the field goal position. Maybe, I don't know. I've been racking my brain on this.
I'm always, when it's the heat of the moment, and you're watching the game and it's right, live. I'm more like that. But then after it's over with, like, it's been a couple days now, and I'm just kind of like, I hate second guessing coaches, and they got a better feel for what the hell's going on. And I also factored in that, we're trying to keep them out of field goal range. We don't want them. MSU doesn't want to allow a field goal. It isn't, they're not, it's not a touchdown. It's not a touchdown that MSU is defending first. They're defending the field goal first. So I think you play a little bit tighter coverage that way. But, totally didn't work out. And, of course, they had that play with the possible block in the back, and could have been a 1st and 20. And I think it would have put them back around the 45. So if they didn't get a first down, they'd have been around the 30-yard line and kicking a 47, 48-yard field goal to tie it. But
he just missed that PAT right before that as well.
Right, yeah. So he was thinking about that. So anyhow, who knows? Maybe they go for it on 4th down. I don't know. But however, they got the touchdown. And again, a minute 23, and MSU, this is something I, been trying to say ever since the season got over, is like, what's MSU going to do in the 4th quarter? And they're in a game in the 4th quarter, and they're down 14 points with, 6-7 minutes to go, and all they got is a run game. What are they going to, what happens then? They're just going to wing it around. I mean, they got the big play last year against NAU, but I mean, they just don't have that kind of offense. And there's a minute 23 or a minute 30 or whatever it was to play. I think it was actually a minute 30, but whatever, they go out there. First play, I think, was a penalty. They got called for holding. So there's a minute 23 and they got 10 more yards that they got to go. But Chambers was just, I mean, that was the most heart and it's just, the amount of courage or whatever you want to call it that he had on that drive. He just carried the team. He really did. I mean, it was just really a sight. He ran one time for 13 yards and a first down. He threw a perfect pass to Trimble, who couldn't come down with it down inside the 10. That was one of the first plays.
Miss
But
Jared White.
yeah, he got he got it down there. They got it all the way down there, got Pickering, and they got, 9 seconds to go on the 19-yard line. They had one of their many false starts still on the 24. And then he throws that pass. That was just a beauty. What a great play on both ends, a beautiful pass. And he was not over the line of scrimmage. He drug his foot. It was still on the 24 when he threw it. So he wasn't over the line of scrimmage, and he completed the pass, and people will argue about it for all eternity, whether it was caught or not. But just that effort though in that situation, in that game, that was really a good thing for MSU. Now, whether that drive and how they ran their offense during that drive is going to carry over into anything, who knows? But it was really quite the sight for Sean Chambers. I thought it was one of his best moments as a Bobcat, even though everything didn't come through for him, but it was quite a deal.
Lots said right there. One of the things I think you should write a story about, go back to what you said about them picking up after the third quarter. The Jacks had 153 yards in the third quarter. The Cats had 18 yards.
Mm-hmm.
And you're right. You were looking at this going, here comes again. We're just going to get bulldozed.
Mm-hmm.
But we didn't. Our defense came back, and we got, like you said, a couple 3-and-outs. And that was so encouraging.
Mm-hmm.
I thought this was Garza's best game as a Bobcat, obviously.
Yeah, well,
the defense just looked like their spacing in the gaps. They were just assignment sound, and I really liked what I saw from Polidor. I think he's just hitting his stride at the safety position.
A great game. Yeah, well, good point. Wow. Yeah, he put some hits on their quarterback and a couple other guys too. But yeah, and he played really well against Utah Tech too. I mean, that guy has got to be the number one. Everybody's talking about unsung. I don't know what that thread's called, where people are trying to predict who the player is going to be that comes out of the woodwork. And so far on defense, it's been Polidor for sure. He has really played well. Another guy that's been playing really, really well that people haven't been talking about too much is McCade O'Reilly is really playing well at linebacker. I mean, they've got 3 guys that are just interchangeable there. That is a big thing for MSU because they didn't know for sure just what that was going to look like with a new player in there. So yeah, but great. Yeah, I'm glad you brought up Polidor because man, yeah, he has been a stud. Holy cow.
I like what I see in the time blitzes. Rylan Ort's blitz on and sack in the first series or first or second series right there.
Yeah, that was a big statement. That was a big statement. I
huge.
Thought that was early in the game, and he made that hit. And in South Dakota State, when they first got the ball, I mean, they stopped us 3-and-out. They get the ball and they're driving. They were driving well, and that turnover kind of, I thought, they'll get over that. A 3-and-out will get that back, but MSU goes down and scores, and so you're thinking, okay, so South Dakota State, they messed up and then they gave up a touchdown, and now they're going to get the ball and they're going to drive down, and then here comes Ort and just smacks that dude and Gronowski, and and then it was kind of like, okay, it was like when Rocky Balboa made it out of the first round, it was just like, okay, it's on now. This is on. And then the whole half was just somewhat dominated by MSU, at least defensively. So, yeah. But, those kinds of plays, though, get a couple of plays like that, and it's just it's a big shot. It's a shot to the ribs.
See, I think you're a little bit more positive than I am. I'm still feeling like this was like a huge missed opportunity, and I'm still a little sad about it. But like you said, it's gonna the second game. In a couple weeks, we will
Yeah.
forget about this,
Well,
and then we will harken back. And when it's December, we'll be like, "Yeah, that was a good loss." Maybe we should be
yeah.
up in this rank because of that, or our projections in the playoffs.
Well, I mean, it just brought to the front that that this defense, it just might be the thing. I mean, uh, they're
It's
going
just
to play
wild.
They're going to play Stetson this week. I don't know. I didn't look at the conference stats aren't real meaningful yet. But after 3 games, I'll be they may not be number one uh, across the board, but I mean MSU holds South Dakota State to 20 points. I mean they were the first team to shut them out in the first half since 2015. That's the first time South Dakota State has been scoreless in the first half since 2015. And it's the last time they didn't score 20 points or more was when they played MSU in Bozeman and they had 17. That's the last time that didn't break 20. And then you go back to 20 against an FCS team, and then you go back to 2020, and they had a couple of games in there during that COVID thing where they didn't hit 20. But I mean, this is MSU did some some pretty big things in this game. And so yeah, I think I mean they got, other than a win, they got a lot of what they wanted in this game.
So I think I know what you're going to say on this. Buy or sell this loss over SD. This loss to SDSU over a beatdown to a lower level FCS opponent.
I am buying this game over the Utah Tech game.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep. You got me.
So you would rather, I mean, in essence, you think this is, even though we lost, this is better for Montana State than saying South Dakota State not being on the schedule and replacing them with the Stetsons of the world, right?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Okay.
Because I mean, how are you going to know? How are you going to know
That's
what
a
you
good point.
got? And if you don't know what you got, you can't. I mean, if you don't know what you're not good at, you can't fix it. You got to find out what you can't do. I mean, it's like when you were learning how to ski. You learn more wrecking skiing than you do on any lesson you get. I mean,
Yeah.
you learn more that way. You do. You learn more. MSU. Yeah, sure. The the third and goal, or the short yardage plays, were not good, but you don't know that. If you don't play a South Dakota State, you just don't know really where you're at. So yeah, no, I mean what went wrong is going to help them just as much as what went right. It was great that the defense had a lot of things go right, but the things that went wrong, now they know, and now they can fix them.
Yeah.
Versus, I mean, if they'd have gone out and won the game, but a lot of the things are all the same, or they do a little bit better in all those areas, and that's why they win the game. Uh, it's like fool's gold, kind of. It's like, oh well, we're good at this, so they know they're not. It's good to know you're not all that sometimes.
I feel hope because to me, these mistakes cost us, these penalties, these 8 offsides, not offsides, false starts.
Right.
To me, like Tom, this feels like Montana State could have won this game by 14 points, 10, 14 points. The way that I came off feeling Saturday, I was like, we were the better team, but we lost this game. This is that classic Montana State lost it.
Well, they beat themselves a little bit.
But beat themselves, and it's just frustrating.
That's what good teams. That's another thing about South Dakota State. I mean, good teams do that. They let teams beat themselves. And MSU's an up and comer, and no, they're smart.
That's a good point.
I mean, we're not gonna, we're gonna let them beat themselves. I mean, in basketball, a lot of people in basketball, I do this because I used to coach basketball with the little kids and stuff, and everybody wants to steal the ball. And I'm like, if you're going to try to steal the ball, you're going to end up fouling them half the time. Then you're going to be in foul trouble. Then you're going to be on the bench, and they're going to be shooting free throws all the time. But if you just play good positional defense, pressure them when you have an opportunity. They'll make the mistake. They'll turn the ball over. You don't have to force the turnover so much as just let them screw up. But South Dakota State's just a savvy team. And, MSU did beat themselves. But the other thing too is, 9 false starts. I mean, that's really bad. That's also a huge anomaly. I bet there wasn't another college, high school, pro team in the whole country, even the 0-10 teams from last year. None of them had 9 false starts. That was just weird. And so I would rather have to fix something like that than have to retool my whole offensive line after the first game.
That's a good point.
But
that's a good point.
But and MSU had a game last year. Nobody mentioned it because they won the game. But MSU against Weber State, and they didn't mention it in that game either because the snapper snapped the ball through the end zone 4 times. But in that game, MSU had 10 false starts or illegal procedure penalties in that game.
I remember.
But nobody even talks about it because, hey, they won. So who cares? And but that goes back to my point. You win the game, and you think everything's okay because you won the game, and it's like, MSU, the coaches obviously saw that, but they didn't do that again the rest of the year. But I don't anticipate that being like a perpetual problem throughout the course of the season. And they were amped up. This is a huge game too.
Yeah.
And I'm like, and I've heard people grumbling about the fact that, not every reffing crew calls those kinds of plays that close, and they apparently, I think South Dakota State had a few false starts themselves. So, it might have been a combination of things there.
So here's my worries is this to me feels like a culmination of effort. So last year, the exit from the playoffs focused intensely over the winter, getting faster, getting stronger, getting bigger to face these guys again. Now that's gone, but the whole season's in front of us. But mentally, these guys have to be stronger than you and I. And Coach Vegan, and coaches in there say, okay, now we got to turn the page. Stetson's coming up, an overmatched team for sure. That benefits us. But then, we're going to Weber the week after that.
That'll get your attention.
That'll get your attention right there. But it just feels like a culminating event. And then you're like, okay, there's a letdown. So how does Montana State navigate this letdown? How do they refocus? How do they reset? As Coach Vegan was talking about in his presser today, that's going to be a big deal to me. Is there any questions you have for me on this game or any direction you want to talk about anymore on this game?
South Dakota?
Yeah.
Nah. I'm done with South Dakota.
Yeah. I mean, at this point, I was just in this conversation. I'm like, okay,
burned out on South Dakota, man.
I'm ready. You made the trip. Did you drive that whole way?
That's another reason I'm burned out on. I drove by myself the whole way. Yes.
Oh man.
Yeah, and I had to stop in Bozeman and do some work for a different job on my way down there, so that slowed me down. I didn't get to Brookings until 10:30, so I left Helen at 7, got there at 10:30. Of course, I lost an hour. And and I'm usually a pretty slow driver. I usually take it easy, but I was like, man, and then the road is just a straight line from Rapid City to the turnoff to go up to Brookings. So I was a little over the speed limit doing that. And then after the game, I was like, there's no way I'm spending the night here and then trying to drive all day tomorrow. So I took off after the game and got on the highway and drove till 2:30 in the morning or so, and then took a little nap and then got up at about 7 and busted home and got back here at 3:30, 4 o'clock. But
Jeez.
I was out on the road a long time, and then there's nothing to do in Brookings. And you had to spend the whole day there sitting around waiting for the game. Fortunately, the game was just, I thought, awesome. I thought it was one of the best football games for in terms of entertainment. Obviously it was a little bit sloppy at times, but just an enormously entertaining game. And I, just was glad to get to watch it. I remember Pete Rose, when they lost game 6 of the 75 World Series, he was getting on the bus, and that was the game Carlton Fisk hit the home run to win it in the bottom of the 11th or whatever it was, and Pete Rose got on the bus and everybody was bummed out. And Sparky Anderson sitting there bummed out, and Pete Rose was like, "Hey, Sparky, wasn't that the greatest game? That was one of the greatest games I've ever been in. That was awesome." And they just lost Game 6 of the World Series, but I kind of had that in my mind. I was like, they lost, but man, that was a fun game, and now I get to get out of here another 1,000 miles. So yeah, it was almost, what was it? I counted 1,874 miles. So yeah, two shots.
How was the stadium? How was the crowd? What did it feel like?
Nice place. Really, from the outside, when I drove up, I was like, wow, they have a huge scoreboard, and on the back of the scoreboard, it says, "Welcome to whatever," and 2022 national champions written across it. And then the main grandstand looks really impressive from the outside. They got a smaller thing over on the other side, but it's really in person compared to watching them games there on TV. It's really, it's like this in every stadium, but it's just more compact or whatever. It's cozier when you're there. And the crowd turned out. It was the second largest crowd in stadium history. And the kids were all decked out. They had a great student section. Kids were all decked out in black. It was Jackson Black night. And so, yeah, they did pretty well that way. Their marketing, or whatever you want to call it, the show they put on the sidelines and the things they do were way behind MSU. MSU's really doing a good job there. They were kind of hokey, some kind of goofy things. They had an auction at halftime. Auctioneer got out there and started auctioning stuff off and doing
it was the Beef Bowl. They were auctioning off cattle, weren't they?
Yeah, something like that. It was corny, but that's South Dakota, I guess. But it was pretty cool, and they had a lot of fans. Their fans don't bring anywhere near the energy of MSU or U of M fans. The stadium, the fans just, they're into it. But and MSU took the fans out in the first half big time. So, but yeah, pretty neat experience. I'm glad I went, but next time I'm not driving, or I'm gonna get somebody to come with me to share the driving or something. So that was going kind of crazy.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'm ready to put this game to bed.
Yep.
It was a moment in time. It could have been a defining moment for Montana State. We could have been talking about Montana State being the number one team in the nation tonight.
Yeah.
But I don't feel like we're too far off, to me, in kind of summation.
I think you're right there.
Yeah, exactly. We held court. We had those pesky false starts and the penalties. The what if game is strong on this one, right?
Mm-hmm,
like the what ifs, and you don't want to live in the what if land because there's what ifs on both sides of the ball.
Mm-hmm.
But Montana State showed out, and that was a great game, as you said. Well, it was a fantastic just football game, but just to highlight FCS football, it was an amazing game.
Yeah.
And I'm just proud of our boys. I'm always proud to be a Bobcat. And now we got to move on. Now we're going to play Stetson, a team coming from Florida. I had no clue. I had the Stetson Hatters from the land, Florida.
They're the Hatters. Are you serious?
Yeah.
Stetson Hatters.
Yeah.
You're not making that up.
No, I am not making that up. I gave all but like 2.5 minutes of prep time to search in a little bit about the Stetson Hatters. What I know about them, Tom, is they've won both games against two NAIA schools, the University of St. Thomas and the Tommies out of Minnesota. So that would have been.
They're pretty good.
Yeah, they're pretty good.
Usually pretty good team.
So that was a double overtime game, 34-33. And then they beat Weber International University, which is, I had to look them up. I never even know. And when you click on these guys on ESPN, they don't even have stats. They don't even have like a signature for them. Nothing.
Right.
So it's
what was their record last year? What was Stetson's record last year?
See, I didn't even devote any time to look into that.
What conference they in? I know this one.
Colonial.
No.
Yeah, aren't they?
Colonial. I think they're in the Pioneer, aren't they?
See, I don't know. Help me out there, Tom.
Oh, well, maybe not. I don't know. I don't know either, I guess. I'm not that confident in it since...
Good reporting here on the R&R. All right.
Well,
hey, buy or sell, Montana State has 500 yards of rushing.
Sell.
See, I'm going to buy that. I think we put over 500. We had 400 on Utah Tech, over
Mhm.
400 on Utah Tech. You think they're going to call off the
Well, I
ponies
think if they
before
wanted
then?
to, they could, maybe. I think if that's what they want to do, if they want to run, I mean, I just can't, so it's going into the game now. It's not after the game. So going into the game, I'm like, they should go out and pass the ball like 50 times in this game. They should
Oh,
be
it's a good
they should
point.
be passing on first down, second down, whatever, and see if they can get in some kind of rhythm with their pass game. And I mean, like,
That's a
why
really good
not?
point.
I mean, if
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know, maybe the first couple drives go out and run it to if to build a cushion or something, but I'm just kind of like guessing that they're going to win this game, handily. I'm just guessing, you
Yeah.
know, and it's easy for me to say because I'm not the coach. The coach is more like, we got to make damn sure we win first. So, they might go out and do some other things, but I just like, this is a perfect game. But they've had a bunch of perfect games to do this in the past too. I thought last year against McNeese and Moorhead, I thought they should be, MSU should go out and throw 40, 50 passes. I thought that the first game this year, Utah Tech, throw 40, 50 passes. They only threw 22. So they ran, they did their running thing and ran for 400 yards. But yeah. But I want to sell. I want that to be what they do. They can run for 500 yards, but I want them to sell that and go pass the ball.
Yeah. I hadn't thought about that. That's a good point. Do you think Tommy's going to be back by Weaver?
Yeah. They got him listed as the starter today
Yeah.
on a depth chart, but I don't know. Yeah,
No.
who knows? Like, yeah, I was initially. I mean, my assumption is that either he has a very minor injury, and if it is somewhat significant, that it's like an MCL, but it's just a grade 1 sprain or something that he can heal up from in 2 or 3 weeks. But
Yeah.
yeah.
He wasn't on crutches. I was positive, and his knee wasn't just wrapped in ice, and so
Yeah. They could have
I
just
don't
been
know.
precautionary and kept him out. He may have wanted to go back in, but they were like, coaches are wise, and they're like, hey, this is a non-conference game. We got bigger fish to fry down the road. We put him back in when he's gimpy like that, and then he does take a hit, and then he's out for the season or out for 6 weeks. Then they're really kicking themselves. So that's my guess, anyway.
Okay. Anything else?
On Stetson.
On anything, man. Anything you want to talk about? I'm kind of I'm there, but if I could go.
Well, yeah, one thing, because I mentioned it earlier, but that catch Cleavon Thomas made, he's good. I think he's really good. And I'm like, if I'm a quarterback, he's one receiver I would be trusting. I'd be like, let's do with him what they did with McCutcheon and what they did with Patterson last year. He got a lot of opportunities, and I'm just like, and when I'm watching, last year when I was watching, I mean, and maybe I'm wrong. This is just watching live, but it just seemed like Thomas was getting open more than the other guys, the other receivers. Thomas seemed like he was open more often than the other guys, but he might not have been like the first read or whatever. But MSU had a big play. I think it was in the Weber State game, the playoff game, or either that or the Grizz. I can't remember. But they had a play down the sideline. Malott threw it to Pickering, and going down the seam was Thomas wide open. If he throws it to him, it's a touchdown. Pickering got
We've covered that on this
30 yards.
podcast. I was yelling.
Okay.
I was like,
what game
you
was it?
have to see that.
What game was it? Okay. Oh, you don't have to
it was I think it was Weber.
Curious. Yeah, that's what I thought too, the playoff game. But
yeah.
But I mean, Thomas is, I mean, he's a dude, I think, and he's such a fun guy,
Yeah.
He's just the kind of guy that people gravitate towards. And anyhow, I just I thought that catch he made is like, see what I can do, and I'm hoping that the quarterbacks put a little more trust in him and start gunning it to him a little bit. But
one thing I like, another player I'd like to see get the ball a little bit more is Marquis Johnson.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I wish he would have got some touches out of the backfield.
You'd think he'd be picking up right where he left off from last year, but he's hardly touched the ball this year so far.
Go back to one of those Sean Chambers up the middle where he fakes the fly sweep. If he just gives it to Marquis or CT right there, that's game. That's game right there. We could do that. It's pay dirt.
Right. But stuff like that keeps me thinking like they must be hiding something for conference. They must be, why aren't they doing that? I can't think of any logical reason other than that. It's just kind of like, why wouldn't you be doing this? Does it work too good? I'm like, I don't know, but yeah, that's kind of odd. Yeah. Marquis Johnson's a weapon. They've got some weapons that they really haven't used yet. So, and I don't think Elijah Elliott I don't remember him getting on the field against South Dakota State.
He played on special teams. He was in on
okay. But I mean, he didn't run a play.
Yeah,
he wasn't in on an offensive
play. He didn't even get a touch. Scottree Humphrey only got one touch.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Julius Davis
ran really well.
Yeah, man, he's got some pop.
He's good. Yeah, he's good. Yeah.
All right.
Well, what's next?
That's all I got. I was just checking Bobcat Nation, and this is my fault. There was no Golden Coolie questions. I am sending out a Golden Coolie to a listener. Oh, we do got one. Colorado Cat. Just hit refresh. Colorado Cat's always good for a good one. If Tommy's out for an extended period of time beyond Stetson, what do you think our offense looks like?
Who goes first, me or you?
I'll go first.
All right.
I think they will run a dual quarterback system. I still think Chambers will be the number one. I'm not convinced Jordan Reed will be the third just because of what we like to do. I've been toying around with Chance Wilson being the little cat in this system. You're shaking your head. Yeah, you're probably right. I'm just saying I was toying. I'm not convinced.
Okay, yeah.
I still think we run a dual quarterback system, but I do think you will see more pass in general if Tommy was in or Tommy's now out. I still think we're going to see a more balanced attack. Coach Vegan was talking about that today. He's like, we need to have a more balanced attack. Until they prove it, until they actually show it, I'll be like, okay. And so Colorado Cat, thanks for the question, man. I'm sorry that I didn't put this up. What do you think, Tom?
I think Reed, Jordan will get in, and and the other thing is I think they'll stick with a two quarterback thing, and with Chambers and Reed, and just because of what he's talking about, what Vegan's talking about, he's like, yeah, we got to get something going there, and I just think, Reed is good at that. Reed's potentially the best passer out of the three, and that's what I think they'll do. I had something else on the tip of my tongue too, dang it. But anyway, I just I mean, it isn't like Vegan isn't, he's not afraid to make a change. We know that. Look at the Matt McKay situation. I mean, if Chambers and Tommy are going to, not make the throws that the coaches want them making, I mean, it was, Malott was a freshman when they brought him up, and Reed's a redshirt freshman, and he looks good. I mean, if he's ready, if the coaches think he's ready, I wouldn't put it past him at all to, put him in and play him a lot. So we'll see.
That's a bold statement there, Tom.
Mm-hmm. Well,
I think Tommy Malott.
That would have been a bold statement in 2021. If somebody would have came up and told you, oh, they're going to take McKay out and put Malott in after the, at some point this year, you'd be like, no way. But Vegan will do that, and people think he's super conservative or whatever with this running offense, and maybe the offense itself is a little bit conservative, but I don't think he is. I don't think he'll wait too long to try something different if something doesn't happen.
I like it, man.
I'm not saying he's going to start Jordan Reed, but he's going to start working him in, just like they did with Tommy. They started working him in, and he was, I think the Idaho game was like kind of a breakout game for him. And,
Yep.
they didn't use him too much against the Grizzlies, but then it was just like, okay, we're making the move. So we'll see.
Well, I kind of hold a theory that Malott saved vegans bacon there in the first season. At least gave him a little wiggle room. How Tommy just propelled the team to the national championship, made everybody feel a lot better about Coach Vegan after that shellacking we took in Missoula. So
Yeah.
I don't know. I was just thinking maybe Coach Vegan feels I don't know, not a connection, but I'm missing the word, just an allegiance to Malott, essentially. So I'm not sure. Anyways, good point.
Okay.
Good stuff. All right. I think we're good, Tom. Hey,
All
man.
right.
Thanks for doing what you do and being a good guy and coming on the CatCast and just your perspective is always welcome here, buddy.
All right. Well, anytime you want me, just give me a call. I'll be on your show anytime. I like doing it.
Right
fun
on,
time.
man.
Okay.
All right. Got to give us one more Go Cats before we get out of here.
All right. Go Rock and R. No. Go Cats.
Go Cats.